Welcome back to Encouraging Things. So I'm in the middle of rebuilding my house, and because of that, I don't have a lot of things, including a kitchen. And as you can see there's my kitchen and my bathroom, and if you look hard enough, you can even see the bedroom way in the back. But it is Thanksgiving, and for Thanksgiving, you need a table. And in order to have a table, we're going to make a table. So we're going to head to the shed. We're going to grab some leftover wood I got lying around and some other bits, and we're going to put them together and see if we can make a flat surface we can make food on. So let's get started. All right, we are now in the kitchen, which I've deemed to be the least ironic place to make a table inside. That's the OSB that's going to be our makeshift table. It's just leftover flooring. It's 3/4 inch thick, and it should be about the right size for what we need. I'm going to build a box around the edges and then try to figure out how to put some legs on it so it doesn't wobble. And this will be the second table I've made. We'll see if it goes a little bit better than the first table I made. For anyone wondering, this is leftover wood from a mistake I made early in my build. I have 2x6s running underneath the flooring, and in a moment of genius, without realizing what nominal meant, I measured them at 5.5 inches. And so I went out and I bought a bunch of 2x6s, and I cut 1/2 inch off of them, making them 5.5 inch, which of course means they didn't fit. Then, so I didn't waste the wood, I decided to make my own 2x3s, which I did. And I did get nominal 2x3 or 2x2.5 inch boards out of it, and they work. And these are the leftovers. These are just under 2.5 inch. They're not exactly 2x3s. They're about anywhere between 1/8 and 1/4 inch too. thin. But because they're rounded on one side from the pre-cut and square on the other side from my cut, they will work perfectly for the bottom part of the table. So I'm going to use these as my baseline for around the outer edge. I was hoping to use these because they're square. I don't know why they're square. I think I cut them that way, making something. I have no idea what. But they would be nice, except I think they're too short, even for the wall. And then at the same time, I don't have enough of them. And I'm trying to avoid using my table saw because it's in the corner of the room and I don't want to make a mess. The only thing I'm going to use, if anything, is my miter saw over here. So these ones will not be used today for anything. There's not enough to make legs. I don't really trust them for legs either. And they are, well, there's not enough of them. Although whatever it was, I was hitting it with a hammer pretty good. So we're going to start with these. I'm going to measure it out, find the lengths I need for the sides of these, and then cut them accordingly. So we'll work on that. I was debating a minute ago whether or not I wanted to do this fancy or not. Now, I cut these to length based on the width and length of the board. So in this case, my 28 3/4 are exactly 28 3/4. They go all the way across the board. That's my front and my back. They're not the same height, but we're not going to worry about that. And then my 4 foot long, because this is a 4 foot wide, it came out of a 4x8, so it's 4 foot wide. My 4 foot wide is exactly 4 foot wide. Now, the reason why that becomes an issue is because of the following. So my options, and I cut them to this length specifically so I had the lengths I need so I could make choices from there. My option is I can either miter cut these at 45-degree angles, square them up, make them look nice and pretty, or I can trim, I'm going to say trim down my long beams by the width of 2 of these and then set them between and just screw them together that way. And I think that's the way I'm going to go, because to do a miter cut properly, I'm going to have to do 2 45-degree cuts here, on all 4 boards, make sure they're all facing in the correct direction, measure, cut them, and then screw them together to make them look pretty. See, I even got that wrong. It's not here. It's here. So already I would have made a mistake. So it's easier to cut the ends off of these long boards and then screw these at the end than it would be to miter cut them to make it look pretty. I mean, it's a chunk of OSB and some leftover scrap wood. It doesn't have to be museum quality. It just has to not wobble when you put stuff on it. So we're going to start with that and move on from there. So I'm going to trim up the edges of these real quick, and then we'll square it up, make the box, screw the top on, and then from there we'll figure out the legs. I was just thinking to myself, what kind of idiot drills towards himself? Well, this kind. I also tend to use batteries as hammers. still. What do you guys think? Third time's a charm before I stab myself with a screw? There it is. Hey, you think when they remake Tool Time, I'd be great at taking Tim Allen's job? See, I tell people I don't do much B-roll. I do a lot of B-roll. I just don't use it because it looks like this. That screw lives there forever now. As square goes, it's not the worst. Again, it's a table. Okay, so that's a start. Not a great start, but it's a start. I'm going to do these other ones a little bit smarter. I don't know how much of that was in shot, probably too much to be safe, but don't do it like that. That's all I got. Don't do it like that. Do it smarter. Show at least some kind of professionalism. Yeah. Even less square. What do you think? You think my boards are warped? I think my boards are warped. Not to be old man who yells at clouds, but I remember a time when you'd put a screw into a board and it would grab immediately. Now I have to drill halfway through a board before it finally caught. Of course, that was like a year ago, so who knows. Let's lift you up a little bit. My wonderful kitchen wall there. This whole wall is rotten, probably all the way down to the joist holding it up. It's got to be replaced in its entirety. That comes after winter time, because right now it is way too cold to be ripping the walls off my home. Well, now I got to think about what kind of finish we want. Do we want a nice smooth finish, or do we want the interior OSB finish? What do you guys think? I like this nice smooth finish. It does actually have an upside. This is the upside. I don't know what that means precisely, but it has an upside. I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to build it upside down. I don't have to get a lot of comments in my videos. I need to screw this in piece. I don't get a lot of comments in my videos, and I often think it's because I don't say enough controversial stuff. But honestly, the reason I don't think I get enough comments in my videos is because I make all the jokes first. Nice. The next screw couldn't figure out which way it wanted to go. I heard it fall off. Oh, there it is. Remember, everyone, on the edges of your board it's 6 inches, on the inside of your board it's 12. Does that look like about 6 inches? You tell me. Oh no, I didn't measure. So, not flush. It's a artistic lip. It's a, lip you get on nice tables. That's what that is. That's science. I'm also out of screws. I gotta do my other set. So what none of you saw there, because I didn't hit record, was I stood this up, clamped it, put a bunch of screws in it, made a bunch of comments. I can't remember what any of them were. Threw it back on the ground, and now I'm finishing up with a couple of screws on the outside. So that's fun. I now have well, less B-roll than I even had before. There's a whole series on screws in there too. But, you know, them's the way things go. What we have now is the base frame of a rather shoddily put together table. Now we need to find some table legs, which, well, I need to know how tall I want this table, so let me figure that out too. It's 4 foot high end to end. That's chest level for me. So I guess most cabinetry I understand is 36 to 38 inches. I know you guys are staring at my feet and you can't see my hands, but I ain't moving the camera again. So 36 to 38 inches. So we'll say probably from top of this, we'll say 38 inches. This is almost 2 inches. That'll put it about 36 inches from, well, no, it'll put it 38 inches from the top of the table to the floor because I'm doing some weird math in my head. So let's see what 38 inches looks like. Looks about like that. 38 inches might be a little too tall. Well, let's see. Alright, everybody. I finished the cuts. I got sloppy on them, so there's a small chance there's a slight variation between each length. Okay, maybe not slight, okay, I'm going to have to recut that. I didn't think I got that sloppy. No, I didn't. Alright, I got that sloppy. So, yeah, I did the cuts, but they're not exactly the best, and none of these legs are the same length, or same thickness. But what I was going to do is I was going to cut these, you know, you can see that, I don't know if you can see these. I was going to cut these and then double them up, make kind of a 3x3, 2x4, something. But turns out I don't have enough. I have a couple more strips, but I don't. Okay, maybe they are the same size. They don't look like the same size from 4 feet away. But I don't know. I was thinking about doubling them up, making them nice and thick. But since my cuts down there aren't exactly the most flush, I'm thinking to myself, maybe cutting 4 sets of not flush legs isn't the best of bet. So I might just go with the 2x3s. 2x4 would be better, but I don't have any spares. And I'm not buying any wood for this project, so, because, you know, it's Thanksgiving and everything is closed. And I need the table today. So, yeah, I might do something with the end of that, trim it up a little bit, and then get these installed. Worst case scenario, if I install it and I find out it's too wobbly, well, it's 2 sets of boards. I just cut 4 more 30, whatever length this is, 36, 38 inch? I don't remember. I'll measure it again. I just cut this again and then put one board next to the other board, drill it into the top, and then I have table legs. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm gonna cut the camera, I'm gonna trim those up, and then we'll come back when I'm actually drilling things together this time. Promise. I did a quick check on these boards, and by that I mean I lined them up next to each other and scribbled a pencil across it and tried to see where each board was a little off. The pencil barely even made a mark. Like, if I'm off by literally the length of my original mark, so there's no reason to redo those. It's going to be wobbly. I'll just have to shim up the feet. You know, you fold up a piece of paper, shove it under there, table's good for another, what, 3-4 months? Alright, length v width. I'm trying to figure out which way is better. I'm thinking this way is better. No, I don't know why. Maybe because brain. Or maybe because the long way of the table is this way, and this is the long way of the board. I don't need to support as much front to back. I need to support from my left to right, so that extra oomph of an inch is more than enough to whatever. So for this one, I'm definitely not going with the 1.5 inch. Pretty certain I forgot to hit record before I went on this whole tirade about screws. Basically, I started with 2.5 inch number 9s, and I'm out. I bought 1.5 inch number 10s, then 1.5 inch. They are way too short. They won't even go through this wood. I was thinking about using them for the top, for the 3/4 inch, but they'd only have about a 1/4 inch into the actual wood, and even though it is just a table, I wanted that extra length, so these don't do me any good. And then I bought another box of 2.5 inch, and in my excitement, I bought number 8s. Now I'd show you the difference between 10s and 8s, but I used up all my 10s. But basically 10s are fatter than this, they're heftier than this. It's a table, it doesn't need hefty, but if I had my druthers, if I had thought longer on it, I would have used the 8s for maybe this part, and the tops, and then use the 10s for the legs. But I don't have that choice. It's not going to be holding up that much. This is not any kind of structural support. This is a small table for Thanksgiving that includes an Instapot and some mashed potatoes. And as much as mashed potatoes make you fat, they don't make tables heavier. So let's get going. Can you not just go in straight for once, please? If I didn't know any better, I'd swear these screws were crooked or curved. They look straight, but as you go in, they automatically start to do that. So you actually have to come in at an angle, and then they curve themselves into a straight line. Maybe it's just my technique, I don't know, but that don't seem right. All right. I don't like switching out drill bits, so get yourself 2 drills. No, I don't like switching out drill bits, but I also don't like drilling crooked holes constantly, so we're going to go ahead and find ourselves an equivalent bit. This one would be better wherever I lost it at. So, but this one will be fine. The teeth will still grab. And the reason I don't like switching out bits is only because the drill bit I need to make the pilot hole is smaller than the bit for the star drive. And so it takes a really long time to swap them out. And by that I mean not individually, no, like one takes a couple seconds. But imagine a couple seconds over the course of, 20, 30 screws. It gets on your nerves after a while. Still try to go in crooked. Alright, I just used 2.5 inch screws on this long end, and I'm going to try to use 2.5 inch screws on this short end here. You see where I'm coming from? Yeah. We're going to see if I hit my own screws. If I do hit my own screws, the first thing that's going to know is my drill bit. The first thing you're going to hear is a crunch, and then me cursing. Alright, seems like I missed anything vital. Still going to go in from the top with an extra screw just because. But that is a table leg. I'm going to do the other 4. Alright everybody, I found a new battery. I got my legs up and running. Now here's a fun fact. I always like the phrase, measure twice, cut once. But the problem is you also have to think about other mistakes that you make. Like when you have 5 different pieces of 2x3, not 4, and one of them is longer than the others. So I started drilling, screwing in my table legs, and I noticed I had 5 table legs, and when I measured this one against these others, they were the right height until I got to this bad boy over here. Now, right now, they are roughly the right height, and that's because I took a circular saw and I cut the extra 3 inches off of it, because I had taken a random board off the floor that was just a cutoff, and it looked long enough to be correct, and I screwed it in place, and I had the ability to unscrew it, but I figured might as well just cut it off. So if the table's not perfectly straight, I'm going to go ahead and blame the fact that it's because this table leg was cut in situ with a circular saw at an angle, not because I poorly measured and cut the other 3 legs. That's the excuse I'm going with. So let's go ahead and see how our table fares. Oh, that is way too tall. That's not a table, that's a workbench. That's a workbench more than a table. But hey, you know what's cool about it is if I make sure that we're all in focus here. Are you guys still recording? Good, all right. So, the cool part is, I mean, it ain't perfect, but I've seen wobblier tables. I've made wobblier tables. So, I'll call that a win. I could do cross beams and cross supports and a bunch of other stuff, but why? So, we're going to call that a win for now. I'm going to go ahead and say that is a complete finished table. Heck, I'll even give you guys a runabout. Let's see. There you go. Little handy cam here. This is the only lens I have, so I have to make adjustments accordingly. There we go. So there's my completed Thanksgiving table. So now we can move onward and cook some food. Thank you everybody for watching, and have a good Thanksgiving.